Hi guys, summer is almost over and I've had this vinyl for a while and I've had this project in my head for a long time. I'm just getting around to doing it now. So these are the supplies that I'm going to be using. I have a 20-ounce straight skinny. This one has the screw top um, that I have spray painted white, and then I sanded it really good with an 80 grit. I have a mouse that I use for my sanding, I use an 80 grit sandpaper for prepping. And so I've sanded it and I've spray painted it flat white, and so it's ready to go and whatnot. So these are what I'm going to be using. I'm going to be using this gorgeous printed vinyl from Pressing Images. Um, it's got so many beautiful colors in it, and it's so tropical and lovely and summery and whatnot. So I'm going to use this, and I'm going to be using Pressing Images Mango Sorbet Glitter, which will go absolutely perfectly with parts of the colors in this image. And I'm going to be using her Serendipity Opal vinyl, which will also perfectly pick up the colors that are in this vinyl. So all three of these go together so nicely. You could use a yellow, you could use a pink, you could even use a green or a white opal glitter to go with this particular vinyl. And Robin's got some beautiful printed vinyl, and this one's really quite thick. So I'm going to do a wrap, but I'm going to do it in two sections. So I'm going to do say half an inch from the edges, and then I'm going to leave a space in the middle to put the glitter as well, and then I'm going to line all of the places where it meets with this beautiful Serendipity opal. Um, so let's get started. The first thing we have to do, because this piece of vinyl is way bigger than the cup, is we have to cut the vinyl down to size. And this being a straight skinny will help us with the application of the vinyl. But first we need to figure out I do want like what part of this we want to be the star of the show here. I definitely want these. Maybe I'll do it this way. Do the flowers and the monster leaf on the bottom. There is no right way, so you can do it however the vinyl is talking to you, but I think I like the flowers along the bottom like that, and then have the leaves going up. And I may just do the top and the bottom glitter as like I'm doing a fabric tumbler. Maybe, but I really kind of want to put it in the middle as well and just break it up. And when I do that, if I do that, I'm just going to cut it and then move it up. So I'm not going to cut a piece out of it, so that the image will continue on. But I'll just have the glitter in the middle, breaking it up a little bit. So I'll have to figure that out. But I want it just a little bit above the edge of my cup. So I'm going to measure this, and I keep it like this. And I'm going to grab measuring tape. And measure this. So I want just that much over. I'm going to cut it maybe a little bit bigger to give myself some room. So 7 I do it 7.5, it gives me room on either side. So I'll do it that way, but the actual cup is 8 inches exactly. It's 8 inches exactly from the bottom to the top rim. So if I do it 7.5, that'll give me a 1/4 inch on each side. That's going to be glitter, so that's good for that. So I'm going to grab my cutter. I have a Cricut paper cutter that I use. It has a little ruler that pops out of the back of it, and it goes up to 15 inches, so it allows you to do a really good measurement and get a straight cut. So I'm going to move that stuff out of the way. I'm going to cut this to 7.5. So I'll open this up and line this right up against this edge here so I get it straight. And there's 7.5. Oh, except that's going to cut my flowers off. That's not good. I'll do it this way. 7.5. Everything's all lined up that way. This is the 7.5. This is the part that I am using for my image. So cut that off. This can be used on a smaller cup, like a coffee cup or whatever. So don't throw that away. You can still use that for something. And it's still got all the colors, and it's still lovely and tropical and whatnot. So I'll just set that aside for another day. So this is my image and how it's going to go on here. So I'm going to have a 1/4 inch on each edge. And now I just need to decide how I want it to meet up here, and that actually is going to be good, like that. Okay, so I'm going to do this will be the same around the top and the bottom because it is a straight cup. So I'm going to measure around, and so this is 9.5 inches around. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to cut it 9.5 inches. The part I'm keeping is on this side of the ruler. The part I'm cutting away is on this side. Because I don't like worrying about trimming excess off after the fact. I like things just to line up from the get-go. And there'll be just a slight overlap, which is what I want, because I would rather have that than have white showing in the middle. So we could just wrap it like this, and then we're done. And I may just do that, or I could cut this in half, which means I'm going to have to cut off a little bit of the top part. Which I could do, and have just an inch in the middle to apply it on. So I will have to consider that for just a second. I do think I like it just the way that it is. And then I'll just throw a little Casper in there as well to shimmer up the image. I think that's what I'll do. So let me come back. Okay, I've made my decision. I am going to, because that's the vision I had in the first place, I'm going to cut it in the middle, and I'm going to have a strip of glitter in between. So I'm going to take a 1/2 inch off of each edge, which my dimensions should still be good for 1 inch in the middle, but so long as my edges are this edge and this edge are equal, it doesn't matter how big or small in the middle is going to be. So let me just remeasure this so I can get to exactly half of what this is going to be. So this is 6 1/2. So 3 1/4. Should give me 2 pieces that are roughly the same size. So I'm going to get rid of this. Set that aside for a minute. So we're going to wrap this like this. And we're going to wrap this like this. And we're going to have glitter in the middle. So that will look pretty, I think. And most of my flowers are on the bottom part, and most of my leaf is on the top part, so that's okay. The trick with this kind of thing, though, is making sure they start in the same place so that the image is continuous. But right now I'm going to locate my other measuring tape. Oh, there it is. And a pencil. And I'm going to come down. Of course, the 1/4 inch isn't really marked very well here. 2 1/4 inch, we'll say, is at that little tab. So I'm just going to mark periodically around a 1/4 inch, just to give me a guideline as I'm applying my vinyl, so that I can keep it straight. And do the same thing from the bottom. And then my middle will be whatever my middle is, but these should appear to be the same. Now when I start this, I have to remember which way is up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to peel back corner of the backing, and you can cut it away, but I usually just fold it in half. Well, not in half, but fold it down. So, and this is beautifully opaque vinyl, because look at the backing is dark. But I'll fold it down so that that's out of my way. So there's just a tab of the sticky, and I'm going to use that to start my vinyl. And like I said, because it's straight, it doesn't matter, but I'm going to line up the markings that I made on the spot that still has backing paper on it, so that I can get it as straight as I can get it before pressing it down. So I've got my sticker down on this side, and then what you'll do is you've got now this pull tab here, and so you can take your hand underneath and pull with your thumb. So I'm just pulling down, and as I'm doing that, it is coming off of the backing, and I will push with my other hand, and it'll push it off the backing, and it'll keep it, as you, if you smooth it as you go, it will keep it smooth. And hopefully I stay lined up all the way around. It's a little easier when you're doing smaller pieces to fix if it's not, or if I've gone awry somewhere. But you just smooth it down, and this helps to reduce. I've gone awry somewhere because I'm a little bit crooked. But if you smooth it as you go, there's far less chance for bubbles to form underneath. And how am I so off? I wasn't straight to begin with. There we go. Now I'm going to have to deal with fixing bubbles because the way that I laid that. Just a hair out is not a big deal, but it was a little bit more than a hair out because you're going to be covering your edges with glitter and with other vinyl. So there's part one attached to the cup. So now we need to start part two, and I think just to give me a little bit of a guideline, because there is a little bit of an overlap here, I'm going to take this ruler and kind of mark where I want that to start. And again, I'm going to peel back my corner. I want to start it from the same side because I want my picture to be as continuous as I possibly can. So I'm going to fold this over. Again, I'm going to start it. Okay, so there's a 1/4 inch there and there, but I want it to start about there. That's the worst part about this kind of a cup, is that you have to be a little bit precise. I prefer to let things flow a little bit better. Like just flow. Okay, so I know I don't have that straight. My husband in here, he's my straight eyes. I have a hard time seeing if things are straight or not, but he was a building construction guy, so he can see straight right away. I'm really sorry I'm fumbling around with this a little bit more than I want to be. I think that's straight. Again, we're going to pull this out. And smooth it as we go. This is really nice vinyl to work with. And just a titch out at the top, but it's still within the realm of what I'm going to be covering with my other vinyls. So this is the picture. It's just split in the middle, and so it's the same picture, just divided a little bit. So this is going to be so stunning with this mango sorbet glitter. So we will mix up some epoxy and fill in our spaces here. I think I'm gonna tape off my edges so that I don't have epoxy come over onto my vinyl first. So I'll just use some electrical tape or not some electrical tape, some low tack. I'll just do that right now. I use the purple Delicate Surface Painter's tape. This one's I think 1 inch and 3/4 of an inch. I don't know. This is just the one I use. So it is sticky enough to stick, but it's not so sticky it's gonna pull up. So I'll even put this on freshly spray painted things, and it protects them. So I'm going to tape this off, and I'm going to be carefully applying my epoxy to just the white spaces, so I don't have to worry about covering the whole vinyl, just the edges will do. But if I was going to like do another paint layer or whatever, I could definitely cover the vinyl parts with saran wrap so that I'm not wasting tape, because this tape isn't actually as cheap as you would want it to be to use copious quantities of it. I find this size is good. So I'm just going to fold that so it's not going to be in my way. And I'm going to take my eraser and I'm going to erase any of these little marks, because I think that this is an iridescent. Yeah, it is. It's an iridescent, so pencil marks may show through. So it is close enough that it will be covered by the vinyl, but I just want to make sure that there's not going to be any pencil marks showing through. So I will erase those before I carry on. And you just want it right along the edge. You want a nice, crisp, clean line. You are covering it with glitter, but unless you're doing a burst where you're not putting the vinyl lines on, you want it as crisp a line as you can get it. And again, I'm going to fold both edges over so it doesn't interfere with anything. Okay, one more, and then we can move on to the next step. I have the hardest time with chipping nail polish and stuff and finding edges, so I always fold it over. Okay, so now we're ready for epoxy and glitter. You could use Mod Podge or glitter glue or any kind of adhesive that you prefer for this. I just find the epoxy method is the best for me, and that's what I do. So I need to mix up some epoxy for some other projects I'm working on right now, so I will come back and I'll mix that up and get them on my cups, and then I'll just put just a small amount on each of these white spots and the bottom, and then glitter it. So I'll be back. Okay, I have mixed epoxy, and I'm just going to do a quick, if I can find my eraser. Okay, I'm just going to quickly zip off any pencil marks that are still showing. I love these erasers that are, I didn't have any there. Okay, so no more pencil marks. I've mixed up some epoxy here. I've mixed up quite a bit because I'm working on some other cups. So I'm just going to take just a tiny bit, and I'm going to put it on anything that's white, making sure it's fully covered, but so thin it's not going to move because we don't need to be spinning this. We just need it to dry, so it needs to be basically wet, but it needs to be fully covered, because if there's no epoxy in a spot, then the glitter won't stick to that spot. And you just need a touch, especially for such small areas. You just need a touch of epoxy. Spread it around. Doesn't matter if it gets up on the tape. It doesn't matter if glitter gets on the tape, because you're going to peel that off immediately after you add the glitter. So I'm going to make sure that this is all good. Now you have approximately, depending what kind of epoxy you use, I use DIY Artisan epoxy, so I have approximately 30 to 45 minutes of work time. So I can set this aside for a few minutes while I epoxy my other cups, and then come back and do the glitter. Okay, I have transferred now my glitter into a proper container because it just makes it so much easier. And I'm going to apply it now to the areas that I've epoxied. And I'm just going to sprinkle it on just like normal. Sticks to the tape, that's okay. I'm probably going to end up doing a couple because it's so iridescent, and because my cup is painted white, not this mango color. I'm going to do a couple layers of this glitter because I want it to be darker than it's showing up right now. So I'll do another layer or two of the glitter, and I can keep using the epoxy method for that. As you can see, it's very, very pale, and you can see the white through it. So I want it to be this color, not this color. So I will keep building this with the epoxy method, and like I can just put epoxy right over top of this. It takes a little bit more if you're putting it over top of glitter than just over paint, but you can do it. If only they made spray paints in all the colors I need them in. That would make my life so much easier. So it's very, I mean, it still matches, but it's just lighter than I want it to be. So, and it comes up a little bit more yellow with the white behind it. So while it matches, it's not what I'm going for, but I will fix that with a couple of layers of glitter. So I'm going to peel this tape off, because if I don't, I'm going to have epoxied it to my cup, and I don't want to do that. So, and that's why I built these tabs in, so I don't have to pick at it to take it off. I can just pull it right off. And I have a nice, clean, sharp line, which is going to work just nicely when I go to put my pinstriping on. So I will keep building up this glitter until I'm happy, and then I will come back for next steps. But you can see how it's going to take shape here. And always make sure you get the bottom. So I'll come back after I build this up and I'm happy with the glitter. Hi guys, I just wanted to come in and show you, when I do striped cups like this, I do the epoxy slightly differently than I do with other things, and I just usually just tell you, I'm about to epoxy this, so you don't need to watch me do it, because you've seen it 1,000 times and you've done it 1,000 times likely. But when I'm doing a striped cup, first of all, I've done 2 coats of glitter on this because the first coat was just a little too light. This color blends beautifully with this vinyl. I did spray a clear sealer on it. I found Rust-Oleum, it's called Painter's Touch Clear Gloss, and it's good for, it's a sealer, it's not just a clear spray paint, so it's for indoor or outdoor use, so if you're doing like a wooden sign or something, you can spray that on it and it should be pretty good outside. So I sprayed that on it, so just to try and make sure that my glitter is not going to shift around too much. And what I'm going to do is, this doesn't have a name or anything yet, but it's another ultra fine like Casper, only I think it just has a white shimmer to it. So I'm going to add a little bit of this to my epoxy so that I can get the sparkly shimmer onto my vinyl parts, so it's not just, if I'm going to do the whole thing. And you don't, when you're using these kinds of things, you just don't need that much. You just want, you don't want to make a solid glitter color. This doesn't have a name or anything yet, so I don't know what to call it. But it's one of Robin's, and it's brand new. So I'm just putting this into my epoxy, so there's just a little bit of shimmer, and I have glitter in here from my other cup. I just have to watch for that. So it's just a little bit of a shimmer in here, and I did not put very much in. And one of the things that using eco glitters or these super fine glitters as a cheat glitter, it helps if you do struggle with micro bubbles. It helps to hide those because you see the glitter, you don't see the cloudy bubble. So I'm just going to throw this on here, and I'm going to do this in sections. I don't usually use such a big cup for this, but I'm going to do this in sections, and I'm going to do the vinyl parts first. There's a hair I don't want right there. So I'm going to do the vinyl parts first, and then I'm going to do the glitter parts. And I'm just going to try very hard not to blend the two together for this coat. Once I get this coat on and it dries, then it doesn't matter because it'll be all one solid unit. But I like to keep it separate just to make sure, even though I've sealed it, that this glitter is not going to go anywhere. Because I don't want it wandering all over my cup, because my glitter needs to stay in its stripe zone. And there's just a tiny, this is a white shimmer, this one. Whereas the Casper's more of a holographic, so it has more color in it. This just seems to be just a white sparkle, so that's kind of cool. Okay, so now I'm going to go over my glitter, and I'm just going to drop it on and drag it across. I mean, it should be fine because it's sealed, but I just like to be extra specially careful because if you do this, you might disturb it, and you don't want to work so hard on making stripes to have them obliterated as soon as you put epoxy on. I'm going to do the bottom. And again, I'm pulling towards the glitter instead of making the glitter drag up. I don't usually use as big a container, but because I've got 4 cups going and I didn't want to mix epoxy twice, this cup is going to be so super pretty. There's such a tropical vibe to it. With the mango sorbet and the Hawaiian print. And then I'm going to do the top. Then I'm just going to run it along. Being careful not to disturb my glitter. I just want to float it over top. And just make sure everything's all nice and smoothly on there. Nothing like finding a dry patch that you totally missed. Because I've done that, and I've done it recently. Alrighty. Now I'm going to just torch this to pop any bubbles. I'm going to pour my leftover epoxy into a little bit of a mold. Let's get this torched. My next layer is not going to need extra care because it'll be smooth and I don't have to worry about all of the glitter shifting. But I'm going to let this spin overnight because it's just about bedtime. And or 4 hours you can do a flood coat if you're using one of the epoxies that you can do that with. Check with your epoxy manufacturer when a flood coat can be appropriately used. And so I'm going to let that spin, and then I'm going to put another coat on, and then I'm going to sand it and apply my pinstripes. Okay, I have 2 coats of epoxy on this. I've done 2 coats of the mango sorbet glitter and a white ultra fine shimmer throughout the where the vinyl sits, and right now it's looking pretty fantastic. But to finish it off, I'm going to add the stripes to all of the places where the glitter meets the vinyl. And I'm not, when I do fabric cups and stuff, I've been doing seams along the seam. I've been covering that with vinyl as well, but this seam looks pretty good, so I am just going to leave that and not draw extra attention to it. I'm just going to do the horizontal bands. Now when you're doing these kinds of things, don't cut your vinyl until you're finished with your epoxy, because you can measure the cup before you start, but it's going to have a different measurement after you're done depending on the number of coats of epoxy you end up needing. So it would be a real shame for you to measure for 2 coats of epoxy and then you need to put a third on, and then your vinyl won't fit. So just grab a tape measure, flexible ones. The fabric ones work better, and measure around. So this one is measuring just a little over 9.5 inches around. So I cut my vinyl 10 inches long because I can always cut away the extra, but I can't. It's harder to not obviously add to it. So if I cut it a little bit longer than I need, it is good. So this is Robin's Opal called Serendipity. It is gorgeous. It is absolutely gorgeous. One thing to note when I'm using Robin's Opal vinyls is that they have, you can see right here on the edge, it's a little bit cloudy on this side and it's clear on this side. They have a protective film on them that you need to peel off before you cut it. So let me just grab this. So there's this film on them so they don't get all scratched up when you're sliding it in and out of however it is you're storing them. But you need to peel that off before you cut it. So that's just an important note to know. So when I cut these, I like cutting them at 0.15 inches wide. That seems to me the best width for doing this type of a thing. It covers up any little bubbles that are on the edge, and it just, I don't know, it's just the size that I find works the best in my head. So that's how I cut them. I cut them 0.15 wide, and I just go into Cricut Design Space, make a rectangle, and then unlock, click the little lock box, and stretch it out to 10 inches long, 0.15 inches wide, and then I made 4 of them because I'm going to have 4 lines. Now, because this has a seam, I'm going to start and stop all of them on the edge of this seam, just so it's consistent. And you can do a situation here where you're just pulling up one and rolling it off slowly. You can do that, and I'm going to line it up right on this line here where the seam is, so that it's covering both the edge of the vinyl and the edge of the glitter. And then I'm going to pull it around, and as I'm pulling it, it's going to, I'm not going to bother with this, I'm just going to pull it all off all at once because it's just a stripe. But generally I would just slide it off the paper as I'm going. Let's try to start that again, because I was doing that so awkwardly. So again, I'm going to write on the edge of my seam, and I'm going to hold that down with my thumb, and I'm going to pull it tight, but not so tight I'm going to break it as I wrap it around, because I don't want any bubbles or gaps, and I want it to be as straight as possible. I went to a crafter's marketplace recently, and there was a tumbler maker that had a booth there, and I was all excited to see her there, and picked up some of her cups, and her stripes were awful. So I don't, especially if you're selling them, you need to make absolutely sure that you are doing this as straight as you possibly can. And you don't want waves. Like I've got a little wave in there, so I don't want that. So I want to make sure, and if I have to strip it all the way off and start again, I don't care. I just care that my line is as straight as it can be. And at the end match up beautifully. And then you can see, hopefully you can see where the other one starts. You'll see, you might not be able to see it on the camera, but you can see where it's raised up. So I'm going to take my handy dandy Cricut craft knife, you can, whatever you use, and I'm going to slice it down this top layer so I can pull off my excess and my edges meet beautifully. And because it's right by the line, you don't really even notice it. And that color is perfect with this vinyl. It is such a perfect color with this vinyl. And it's just the same for all 4 of these lines. You don't get it straight at the join, it's going to be so noticeable. And you want to rotate your cup while holding your vinyl still, because if you are trying to do it by the vinyl, you're going to end up wiggling your vinyl and getting waves in it. So that's not a great thing. Oh, this is looking so, see how much better having it finished off is compared to just leaving it. Like I know some people are tempted to, I've got this really beautiful clean line, I'm just going to leave it, but it looks so much more finished and professional if you finish it off with a pretty vinyl like this. So I'm just going to do 2 more. And just do a double check to make sure you don't have any spots where it comes in closer and whatnot, and that you've got everything beautifully straight before you cut it off. As long as you have that tail there, you've got room to move. did not go all the way through. The last of the summer vibe, I tell ya. It's a little sad, but this cup is looking pretty fantastic in my opinion. Now I could have made my glitter on the top and bottom come up a little bit more with using the vinyl striping. It's a little close to the edge. I just wanted the star to be this beautiful vinyl. So there we have our vinyl striping. I don't think I'm going to add anything else to this because I don't know what I would add to this. Maybe tropical vibes or something in this vinyl, but a thing that you could do is get an SVG file for these kinds of leaves and do like a gold textured vinyl overlay, but I think that this cup looks pretty perfect the way it is. So I'm going to apply another coat, possibly 2 of epoxy over it. What's going to determine that is whether or not I can feel my vinyl. So if I put another coat on, and I can still feel the vinyl, I'll put 2 on. If I can't feel the vinyl at all and it's perfectly smooth, then I'm good to go and I have a finished cup. So this is, I've had this in my head all summer long, so I finally got around to making it for you, and I'm really thrilled with how it turned out. You can do this, you can do multiple stripes down a cup and do this. You can do a full wrap and just do the tops and the bottoms in glitter. You can do whatever you want to with regards to doing the wrap, but with the wrap it is easier to do it on a straight skinny than it is on a tapered skinny. I do like the tapered skinny a little bit better because it's a little bit more of an elegant cup, but for things like wrapping and whatnot, I use the straights, and this is just a gorgeous cup. So thanks for watching, and hopefully you got some tips out of this and learned something, and I hope you love it, and we'll see you next time.